I'm your host, the Gym Slasher, back at it again. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with me, and I appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, giving me unconditional love, and I give it right back. So let's get into this. Is the Dodgers cheating? Is it fair what they're doing? Right. So I love baseball. I think let me start by saying that I really do. I grew up in Los Angeles, so there is some bias here. I'm a Dodgers fan. I'm LA everything. Y'all know that. I'm talking about it. But I like to get into all sports because everything I'm always intrigued on just good stories and good things to talk about and want to hear everybody else's thoughts and opinions on them. As a result, I grew up a Dodgers fan. That was actually the first sport that I was playing first, other before football, before uh, basketball, before anything else. The first equipment that I got was a baseball, a glove, and a bat. That was actually the first thing that my dad gave me. My dad was a 60s baby. He grew up, or actually grew up he was born in 48. So he grew up in the 50s and the 60s. And at that time, in that generation, baseball was it. And then it was basketball. Then football came later, but it was baseball, America's pastime. Make no mistake about it. So I say that to say I went to Dodgers games and I was a very baseball geek. I was a baseball nerd. I had the baseball cards and trading cards to get acquire other cards and stuff and new rosters and stats and numbers. And that's how I think I got really good at understanding, averages and things like that really helped me in school with math and everything because I was already understanding numbers. That being said, I'm kind of geeking out a little bit on that, but I want to bring that up to talk about this in terms of a little bit more of a deeper dive. I talked about the Dodgers in my IG and in my YouTube shorts, so I got a little buzz on that, and I want to do a little longer dive in terms of explaining my kind of annoyance with what's being talked about. It just so happens to be my team, but I assure you that if this was any other team that was winning and dominating, I would look at what's going on too. And it's very smart, it's intelligent. Even if it wasn't my team, I'll be upset that it should be my team for doing what this ownership from this franchise is doing. What brought this in? I said it in the IG, said it in my short. This is, and I'm gonna say it here. You can die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become a villain. What that mean is, the longer you do something that's good, people can turn on you and be upset for the same thing that you was doing prior to. It's just that you're winning and you're dominating now. And the public sometimes feel a type of way if it's not their team that's doing it, to be like, hey, that's not fair. What are you doing? What is this? I've seen this with the Patriots. I don't know if people remember the dynasty that started, but the upset of beating the Rams, the St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner and the greatest team on turf. The Patriots was not supposed to beat that team, and let alone them going on that 3-year, 4-year, 5-year dynasty where they were in the Super Bowl, off and on for like for that first 5-6 years. And then you see the maturation turn into everyone not liking the Patriots, right? Because of their winning, because of they understood how to release players before they release them early as opposed to keeping them late. That they were allowed to acquire assets, meaning draft picks, and save some money. Tom Brady was forever changing he would get a maximum deal. A year or two later, he would defer that money in the back so they can acquire a free agent, or they can make a sound trade, or they can save money on their books to keep players and stuff that they knew they wanted to keep long term. That's how they were able to acquire a Hernandez, a Gronk, a Randy Moss, and keep some of these players that they had on the offense side, on the defensive side, and all that, because of not only the salary cap, was smart enough to find the right players and have a star in Tom Brady that was willing to say, yes, I'll take less if you're going to go out there and give me the assets that I need to make me successful and to make the team successful. Then let's fast forward. You've seen this in Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs on Tom Brady and the Patriots back end of them, starting to, there's some cheeks in the armor with Belichick and Brady and all that. And the Chiefs was that darling team with Patrick Mahomes, excuse me, and people were rooting for him all across. Then the Chiefs catch wind and they start winning, and then it was the Chiefs Kingdom or Kansas City Kingdom and all this big things that was going on. And guess what? They became the villain. Everybody wanted to beat him. Everybody was tired of him. Andy Reid, they couldn't win a championship to save his life with the Philadelphia Eagles. He gets here, he's winning, and now you was happy for him then. Now you don't want him to be there. Patrick Mahomes, the young guy, the young gunslinger that was here and there throwing, was talented. Everybody wanted to be him. Now he's here, and now guess what? Oh, we're tired of him. And then Travis Kelce, we don't need to get all into that. And I'm not touching nothing of the Swifties. I don't want no smoke. Understand? No smoke, Swifties. Y'all good. Be that as it may. I'm bringing these examples up to show how you can start to be a darling and then go from darling to villain or most hated or disliked, or you want to see him knocked off their throne. Insert now in the Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. We are seeing a dynasty in the making. If not, it's in real time. They won in 2020. They won in 24. They won in 25. That's 3 championships already. They've been in and out of the World Series for the last almost 10 years, including the infamous 2017 against the Houston Astros, who actually cheated. And going through that, and now they're here in this back-to-back. And then they got the best player, arguably, in the game. They got the best player in Shohei Ohtani. They got Freddie Freeman. They got Mookie Betts, who was also an MVP. They got Kike Hernandez. They got Will Smith. They got a good Yamamoto, Blake Snell, who are Cy Young level pitchers, including Shohei Ohtani, who's also a Cy Young level pitcher, as well as a hitter. Right. So you seeing fans all over is watching how this team has been formed over the last 5 years, and you're seeing the dominance unfold. So now people are peeling the layers back to see how the success was made, basically how the sausage was made. And they're seeing things that they don't necessarily like, but it's within the rules. It's in the confines of the rules. My annoyance is this. The Los Angeles Dodgers, they're a West Coast team, and yes, I'm alluding to the biases that we have going on. The reason why I'm saying that is we have the New York Yankees, who have a payroll of 300 million or better. You have the Chicago Cubs, who's 300 million or better. You have Boston Red Sox, who about on that threshold of 300 or better. I know the Padres at one point was at that 250, 300 million threshold. So you can statistically see that Dodgers are not the only one who's shelling out money trying to acquire, to win championships, to be competitive, to be relevant, right? They just happen to be the ones who go, hey, you know what? Let's negotiate to see if a Shohei Ohtani, our megastar, that we're giving him 10 years, 700 million. Can he defer some of this money in the back end to allow us to acquire these players to come in to stay competitive? Can we do that? Can it be done? So to see them put that together in a smart and intelligent way is quite remarkable and doesn't need to be criticized. It should just be, if anything, followed and try, or at least attempt to follow, to keep this going. But it takes several things for this to work beautifully the way that it is, because we've seen over the years, Yankees for that matter, and I brought them up earlier, but you see the New York Yankees who stay with high payrolls but no championships to show for themselves, right? But you see they got their Aaron Judge and the Statons and Garrett Coles, and they got the talent, but they don't have the hardware to show in terms of team hardware, meaning the World Series title over this portion of time. I'm curious to find out that if this was the Yankees doing this, will we be seeing this? Because they were always the evil empire, which I loved. Matter of fact, I loved that about them at the time with George Steinbrenner, rest his soul, and that team in the early 2000s with Derek Jeter and the closer, what's his name? Mariano Rivera. There you go. It took me a little bit. Sorry. because I'm switching teams, but Mariano Rivera and that core four that they had there, Bernie Williams and stuff like that, and they had a great team. So you love to hate them, but I actually enjoyed watching them play. I was a big Derek Jeter fan, even an A-Rod fan, but I was still, Dodgers everything. But it was good to see. I like seeing teams that are dominant, that understand how to win and how to maintain players and do it for a long portion of time. That takes work. That's not easy, because we see multiple teams with big payrolls, and they can't save it. They can't keep a team together, or they can't win. But I also point out franchises and ownerships who go out of their way not to be competitive. And I think we lose track of those kind of franchises, and that goes across the major leagues, NBA, NFL, Major League, other teams that just bought the franchise just to make the money. Some of these franchises, if they just make the playoffs, that's good enough for them because of the extra income that comes with those bonus games, those bonus home games, or things like that. Or some teams that just use the franchise as a tax write-off to other things that they got going on, allegedly and supposedly. But on an entertainment level, I like seeing a ownership that's trying to be relevant, that's trying to be competitive, that's trying to put a great product out there for people to purchase and pay money to see them play, to see them be competitive. You have the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I'm just on a bias level, but the numbers are saying it. You're seeing a spike in viewership with Major League Baseball. Viewership has been slowly creeping up there. And I can't ignore at the fact that you have Dodgers, who is in a big market, who's in a big scene. You got Magic Johnson in his financial group, and you got all these things, this cachet that's bringing attention to the league. And why would you want to break that? Why would you want to tear that down? For what? Because it's the Dodgers is winning and not Boston, or it's not the Yankees, or it's not the Cubs, or some other teams that you may want or prefer to be there. This is ridiculous, right? You're always going to have Dodgers are not going to win every World Series. We don't need to do this fear mongering in terms of, the Dodgers, there's going to be a team that's going to catch them. And people forget that Toronto Dodgers World Series that happened last year was a phenomenal series, and Toronto gave Dodgers everything they asked for and more. That was a great series. It wasn't no cakewalk, and I don't think if the Dodgers were to make it into the postseason this season, it ain't going to be a cakewalk then. You're going to find a team that's going to be playing for their playoff lives in the last month and a half. They're going to get hot, and Dodgers teams like that are going to have to follow or compete against teams that's already hot, and how to go against them. If they were to get past the NL pennant and get to the World Series, there's still the Yankees are still there. There's still other competitive teams in Boston. That includes Boston. That includes Toronto. Toronto didn't drop off the map. They still relevant. They still going to be there. And you're going to see these kind of tier teams where I'm looking at, there's going to be a problem for the Dodgers to try to put away. It's not going to be no sweep or anything like that. And if you've seen baseball at any time as a historian or as a fan of baseball, you know this. That doesn't 115 game win season doesn't guarantee you a championship. We've seen this with the Mariners. You've seen this several times with the Dodgers over the several years of them winning 110, 115, and then falling apart in the playoffs. As a fan, I've seen this happen. I've said, facetiously a little bit, but I've said we were the new Atlanta Braves of the modern era, because we had all the talent, but we only could walk out with one title at the time. Now we're finally hitting this other stride. The other part I like to bring up before I close this out is the players we're acquiring. Other teams have had Mookie Betts of the world, the Blake Snells of the world, the Freddie Freemans of the world, and that includes Shohei Ohtani, who people forget he was with the Angels for 6 seasons before he went to the Dodgers. And when the Angels had him, they had no winning season, they had no playoff appearances, they didn't have anything, and on top of that, they had Mike Trout there, who's also a top 10 current one of the best players in the game and one of the top 10 best players in the game right now. And Shohei was walking in with both of them on that same team, and they still couldn't make nothing. That's a proof of how bad a franchise can have. You have two great players and can't even have a winning season because you can't figure out your bullpen, or you can't figure out how to acquire other players. And yeah, I'll give you a little bit of it. There's some injuries that comes into play, but for 6 seasons, no winning season, we're not having that. So we've also had, people forget Moneyball with the Oakland A's, and they did a movie on this with, I believe it was Brad Pitt that played in that movie, but where you have Moneyball with the Oakland A's and how data came into the place, data analysis came into place, and really running on those numbers, and then also essentially it was finding the best players with low risk. And how good individually they were in using data to support this. And they were having